I have led armies across 9 star systems. I have broken the spirit of great empires with a single strike from orbit. I have accepted the surrender of proud rulers before my ships even reached their home world. I understand war. I understand its rhythm, its unspoken agreements, the quiet understanding that exists between two sides who know when a fight is over. I thought I understood everything about war. Then I met the humans. I am writing this report for the leaders who sent me here, so they know the truth before they send anyone else. I do not write this to protect my reputation. My reputation is already gone. I write this so the next commander does not make the same mistakes I made. When our fleet arrived above their world, we struck their shipyards first. This is standard practice. We destroyed a large part of their space fleet before they even noticed we were there. In every war I have fought before this one, an attack like this breaks the confidence of the enemy. They stop, they think, they talk. They ask for peace, or at least ask for time. The humans did not stop. They did not ask for time. 4 hours after our attack, we received a message. It was not sent by a leader or a general. It came from someone who called himself some guy at Mission Control. The message was short. It said only this: "Okay, noted. Working on it." My officers thought this was a mistake in translation. I thought so too. We checked our systems again and again. There was no mistake. The humans had lost almost half of their ships in orbit, and their reply was calm, almost bored, as if we had only interrupted their lunch. This was the first strange thing I learned about them, but it was far from the last. In every war before this, there comes a point where you can measure your enemy. You count their ships. You count their soldiers. You count what they have left, and from that number, you understand how much longer they can fight. This has always worked. It worked against the proud empires of the Chask. It worked against the calm and thoughtful Marinal. It even worked, eventually, against a vast hive mind that took years to understand it could lose. It did not work against the humans, because I could never find where their fighting force ended and their ordinary lives began. We found fishing boats carrying explosives. We found weather machines turned into weapons within a single day. We found a commercial pilot who lost contact with his base, and instead of retreating, calmly told his passengers to leave the plane by parachute, and then flew the empty aircraft directly toward one of our patrol ships. His last message, recorded and later translated for me, sounded almost pleased with himself. There was no edge to their strength. I searched for that edge. My officers searched for it. One of my most trusted commanders, General Threx, told me 3 weeks before he was lost that he believed he had finally found the last of their fighting population, the true end of their numbers, the point past which they could not continue. He had found a community of elderly humans. They had already dug defensive trenches around their homes. There seemed to be no bottom to this well of resistance. Every time we thought we understood their limits, they proved us wrong. The third thing I learned is that humans do not follow the quiet rules of losing. Every species I have fought before understood how to lose with dignity. When they were defeated, their leaders sent messages. They arranged meetings. They accepted new terms, because even in loss, there is a shape to how a war ends. It is almost peaceful, in its own way. Both sides know the dance. We eventually reached their capital city. Taking their main city should have ended the war, based on every calculation my staff had prepared. When we entered their main government building, it was empty. Not empty from panic. Empty like they had simply tidied up before leaving. There was a note left on a podium in their largest meeting hall. My translators showed it to me. It said only, "Be right back." They had moved their entire government somewhere else, a location we could not find for 6 more months. During that time, they kept sending out orders. They kept fighting. Not once did they ask us for terms. Not once did anyone offer to end the war on any conditions. My language team described their messages during this time using words that translate roughly to confident and unbothered. I had taken their capital, and it changed almost nothing. The fourth lesson was the hardest for me to accept, because it broke a rule I trusted completely. There is a way that war usually works. When a population understands the cost of continued fighting, they usually choose peace. This is not cruelty, it is simple reason. I have ended 6 wars this way before. Show a population the price they will pay, and they choose to stop paying it. I ordered several demonstrations meant only to show the cost of resistance. I record this now only as information, not with any pride. These were meant to change their minds, the way similar actions had changed the minds of other species before. Their reaction was not what I expected. There was no widespread fear that led to giving up. Instead, we intercepted broadcasts from their news channels, which we had been watching closely, hoping to see their spirit break. One broadcast showed a woman standing near her damaged home. She looked directly into the camera. She said, in words I am translating loosely, because their sayings are hard to capture exactly, that she was not going anywhere, and that we would learn that the hard way. We did learn it the hard way. That woman's calm and simple words told me more about this species than any battle report ever could. The fifth and final lesson is the reason I am now recommending that we leave this system completely. I want to explain this clearly, because it is the center of everything I have learned. I do not believe humans acted without honor. I have studied their actions closely. I have seen human soldiers risk themselves to help our injured after a battle. I have seen them pause fighting to bury their fallen soldiers, and ours too, in the same ground, on the same day. There is a code of behavior inside them. It is simply not the code I know. It does not follow our usual patterns of measured response, acceptable cost, or waiting to see who gives up first. Our entire approach to war depends on the idea that war follows a pattern, and every pattern has a point where it can be understood and used to our advantage. Humans do not seem to treat war this way. Every human group I encountered acted as if the war would end only when they personally decided to end it, using whatever tools were available to them, without waiting for any larger pattern to appear. There is no single point to press, no single leader to convince, because their resistance did not come from one place. It came from millions of individual choices, made separately, by people who had never met each other, all choosing the same thing at the same time. Nobody told them to make this choice. They simply made it, together, without needing to be told. I am not writing this report to say we cannot succeed here. I am writing it because the idea of success, the way we usually understand it, the calm agreement that ends a war, may not be something available to us with this species. Their desire to keep fighting does not seem separate from their desire to simply continue existing, and I have found no plan that ends one without ending the other completely. That is not a victory. That is only an ending, and not the kind any of us came here for. I have led soldiers into difficult places. I have led fleets through terrible storms of light and metal. I have fought governments, empires, and once, a vast, joined mind that took years to accept defeat. I had never fought a group that simply refused to accept that the war was something we could win, and then, through sheer will, made that refusal come true. There is one more memory I want to include here, because I think it explains everything better than any of my reports or numbers ever could. Near the end of my time in their system, before I gave the order to pull back, I visited one of the areas where a small group of humans had held a position far longer than any calculation said they should. It was a quiet place, and the fighting there had mostly stopped by the time I arrived. I walked among what remained of their shelter, escorted by my own guards, expecting to feel a sense of victory. Instead, I found a single object left behind, a child's drawing, folded and tucked beneath a stone, as if placed there on purpose, rather than lost by accident. The drawing showed a house, a sun, and several small figures holding hands. My translator told me there were words at the bottom, written in a careless, hurried style. It said, "We will be back home soon." I do not know if that family made it home. I do not know if they are still alive. But I understood, standing there, why nothing we did seemed to work the way it always had before. They were not fighting simply to defeat us. They were fighting to return to something. A sun, a house, hands held together. That kind of purpose does not respond to pressure the way fear does. It does not bend the way pride does. It simply continues, quietly, no matter what stands in its way. I have thought about that drawing many times since leaving their system. I still do not fully understand this species, and I do not think I ever will. But I understand this much. They are not fighting the way anyone has ever fought before, and no plan we bring against them seems built for people like this. My recommendation to the leaders who sent me remains the same. Do not send another fleet expecting a fight that follows familiar patterns. Do not expect fear to work the way it has worked before. If another fleet must be sent, it should be sent with new eyes and new plans. Because everything I once knew about warfare stopped being useful the moment we arrived above their world. I recommend, above all, caution. Whatever is written about this world in our records from now on should carry a warning for anyone who reads it next. Not a warning of danger alone, but a warning that the usual rules simply do not apply here. That is the end of my report.